Well, hang on, Sid.
Yeah.
You have to say what it is.
I know. I caught myself.
Okay.
Don't be mean to me.
Okay.
You're mean.
And that's how we start the video.
Yes. You might get more views that way.
Maybe. Well, there is a new children's streaming service in town. It's called Bentkey by the Daily Wire. We've watched every show, and we're going to tell you what we think about it and whether it might be worth it for you and your family. So some time ago, the Daily Wire announced that they were going to produce children's entertainment and that they were going to be making 1 or 2 shows. And I think most people assumed that that was all it was going to be until just a couple days ago, they released all of a sudden an entire streaming service that's clearly designed to compete with the likes of Disney+. It includes both material that they produced in-house as well as shows that they've apparently licensed from other studios. Most of it's come from overseas, various European shows. And we've checked it out. We've watched all of the different shows. We've put our own children in front of them to see their reactions. And here's what we think about it.
I have a lot of beef with this streaming service. As a mother, I use the TV as sort of a pause button for my children so I can get a few things done in the morning. And the way this streaming service in particular works is it'll play an episode and it doesn't autoplay the next one. So I have to come back and click on the next one. And it doesn't even you know how Netflix, it'll play it and then it'll be like, next episode. And you can just click the next episode button. No, you have to go out of the video, then scroll down and click the next one. It's just so tedious. I almost spend more time switching episodes than my kids actually spend watching them. And like I said, if you're a parent, the TV sometimes is there just to babysit them for 5 minutes so you can put the dishes away. And I can't do that if I hear, "Mommy, help! Fix it!" because the episode ended and I have to go redo it.
And these are 5 8-minute episodes, so the fact that it doesn't just autoplay the next episode in sequence is a real issue.
Yeah, and I would say that scrolling isn't the easiest either. It's when it doesn't ever show you the full picture sometimes, and it just...
So there's this whole thing where, just like with a lot of streaming services, you can see the different shows you can watch that are organized into different rows where, here's the stuff that, here's all the children's Sunday cartoons. And so they've got a few different categories that are arranged into rows. And each row shows 4.5 thumbnails of different shows. The trouble is if you click the button to scroll each row, instead of shifting the row 4 thumbnails over so that now you're seeing the entirety of that thumbnail that was cut off before, it shifts it a full 4.5 thumbnails. So now you're seeing the second half of the thumbnail that you could previously only see the first half of. So at no point are you allowed to see the thumbnail in its entirety.
Oh, and if you try to close out of a program, you can't go straight to the exit button. You have to flirt with it. You have to go up and then down, and then the arrow will pop up. It's not just automatically there if you go up. I don't even know how to explain it, but you have to do this little coy little play thing with it.
Yeah, the way out of a video is there's a little button to go back, but it doesn't always display, and it doesn't automatically display the moment you start moving the mouse. It only displays if you move the mouse in the general vicinity of that corner of the screen. But if you move the mouse directly on that corner of the screen before the button shows up, then it doesn't show up.
Yes. I think that has driven me bonkers. I think those are my biggest beefs.
The audio balancing is all over the place. You watch one show, and it's way too loud, and you have to turn down the volume. And then you switch to a different show, and suddenly it's really soft, and you have to crank the volume way up. Every show is completely different.
Yeah, I think the Chilla time was very loud, but Mabel, we had to, every single thing had to be blasted because she was the program itself was so quiet. And then they brought on a banjo. They brought on this banjo, and she goes, "The banjo's really loud, isn't it?" And I thought, okay, whatever. And then he twangs that thing, and it was just, I felt like I could feel it. And I thought, well, okay, I didn't think the banjo was that loud, but you proved me wrong.
So let's talk about their shows. So Daily Wire has produced basically 5 shows in-house. And one of the ones that they seem to be the most proud of is A Wonderful Day with Mabel Maclay. So what is this show?
It is essentially a Mr. Rogers knockoff. I think what they meant to make it as is a sort of homage to Mr. Rogers, but they beat for beat take everything from Mr. Rogers, including walking it. The beginning of the episode, she walks into her house. There's, instead of a train, there's this little zip line she's got going through her house.
And that delivers notes to her, just like the little train set delivered notes to Mr. Rogers on the show.
Yeah, and then she's got her own little Imagineville. It's called Bannerville, right? Bannerville? And it's weird. It's this weird, they look like Shrinky Dinks. The little characters look like Shrinky Dinks. Are animated, and they're really flat. It looks like Paper Mario almost. And so that she'll go to that, and then she's got the dog named Jasper, which is the star of the show. I love him.
Whenever that dog is on screen, the kids are glued to the screen.
Oh yeah, they're so excited.
It's a good puppet, and the puppeteer deserves a raise, because that cannot be an easy puppet to work. And
the voice acting is pretty great too.
Yeah, the puppet's great. If you just made the Jasper the Puppet Dog show, kids would be all over that.
Yeah, and she also, let's see here, in the first episode, she invites over a guy who plays the banjo. And in the second episode, she goes to, I am not exactly sure what it is. I think it's a miniature train set. She goes to a place that has a miniature train set. I don't know exactly what the place is supposed to be. I think the sign said it's like a miniature...
It's apparently sort of meant to be a model of a historical town or something along those lines.
Okay, well, for a second, she goes into a train car, an old-fashioned train car. It's really confusing. They don't give it any time. It's 5 seconds and it's gone, even though it's the most entertaining part of the show, besides the dog.
It's the most educational part, and it's clearly where they're trying to ape off of Mr. Rogers doing the little interviews he does with people who come to his house or going to factories or farms or things and talking to the people there. It's clearly meant to be that. They just, in the second episode, don't give that segment nearly enough time to breathe.
And then she's got this... Okay, I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it's a memory machine or something. Do you remember what it is? She sticks things from the day in it.
And then it produces a book, and then they read the book at the very end of the episode. I'm sorry, they sing the book.
She sings the book. I feel like that's important. I don't know why, but I feel like it makes it a little more awkward.
But the dog's on screen when she's reading the book, so that's all that matters.
Yes. That dog. The dog is the only one actually getting good lines. He said, "I used Tim's foil." And I know the kids didn't get it, but I thought, oh, that's clever. It said tin foil, it's Tim's foil. And I thought, oh, that's cute. And then, in the first episode, he builds a time machine, and he jokingly grabs an old man beard and pretends to get really old. And he was the only one that was like, oh, this is actually really cute.
And he's really the only thing that is completely original to this show versus Mr. Rogers, because nearly everything else is beat for beat Mr. Rogers. And here it looks like the writers were actually given a little room to be creative, and it worked out well. And I think my main advice for this show moving forward would be maybe be willing to let this show be its own thing, because when it is being its own thing, it seems to be doing its best.
Yes, except the weird squirrel in the wall. That's a little weird.
It's a little uncanny.
Yeah, it's so weird. I also have to say, there's at the very end, the ending sequence, she drives her car into the lake. Because it's what do you call it?
It's an amphibious car.
And it's so weird because there's no lead up.
She goes fishing in her car.
Yes. There's no, because everything else is pretty serious besides the talking dog. Everything is so literal. And then suddenly, we're just driving our car into the lake.
Does this show have the potential to be a new Mr. Rogers?
No one is going to be a new Mr. Rogers. It has the potential to be good, but it can't replace Rogers.
You can't cast a new Mr. Rogers. He was a one and done, unique person. This could be its own thing and be good. And the kids liked it, at least so far as the dog is concerned.
Oh, yeah. Our son, I handed him a dog that we have that sort of is the same coloring, like a stuffed animal, and he has gone around calling it Jasper.
Mm-hmm. He had to get Jasper before he went to bed.
And then he went to bed howling.
When he sees the website for Bentkey, he points to Mabel, and he says, that one.
That one.
Well, he points specifically to the dog next to Mabel, and says that one. So really, if they could just add some more puppets, lean into that, because that's what works.
Chilla Time is basically attempt to be Bluey, but with chinchillas, who I know at one point they talked about homeschooling, not on the show, but Daily Wire was talking about the chinchillas maybe homeschooling. And
they're a homeschool family.
They are a homeschool family. Because what I find weird about it is because both parents are always there when they're educating, which I'm like, I don't know how that's physically possible. You know what I mean?
Nobody has a job at this house.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, how do you? I don't. Rob Schneider, the Rob Schneider, is playing the dad, and I have to say, well, yes, he is a fantastic voice actor. I mean, it was. I can't knock that. My issue, though, is it's a lot like Bluey in that the parenting is so over-involved, which I know is so nitpicky. And it also gets some facts about the actual books wrong.
So a lot of the episodes are basically we're going to act out various classical books. So they do Frankenstein, they do the Three Musketeers, they do the Odyssey.
I am obsessed with Gothic literature, and so when they did Frankenstein, I was like, okay, this is going to make me either love or hate you. And they chose not Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, they chose Universal's monster, Frankenstein.
The movie version.
Yes, there is no Igor in the book. There's no Igor in the book, there's no raging villagers. I mean, they kind of took the message and just whoop!
So would you say it sounds like Frankenstein as understood by people who have never actually read Frankenstein?
Yes. It's the misconception of what Frankenstein is. Now, I will say, I have seen the movie, and it's enjoyable. But if you're going to tell me this is the story of Frankenstein and we're a homeschool family, I'm concerned. They kind of mess up the prince and the pauper, too. For example, the pauper who becomes the prince never wants to give up being the prince, and they acted like, no, they wanted to switch back, and it's like, not really. He liked being the prince, and the point was that the pauper was a better prince than the actual one, and I mean, they were just things which, sound stupid, because cartoons get this wrong all the time, but if you're going to pretend that this is educational, oh boy. I didn't see the Three Musketeers one, which I'm kind of glad, because I'm actually reading that right now, or I audiobooking that right now.
They say very little about the books except that there are 4 musketeers.
Okay, cool. And it's beautiful. Visually, it is a very beautiful. I mean, I just love it's so fluid looking.
It's very much the same style as Bluey.
The characters are blue too.
The character design looks a lot like Bluey. You've got a dad who is very, very heavily involved in playtime and creates elaborately complex play scenarios. It's It's really trying to be Bluey, but with more facts and logic.
Yeah. I think my biggest pet peeve about it is that I wish it would stop trying to be educational because it's failing so badly at trying to be educational, and just let it be fun.
Because the writers haven't actually read this stuff.
Yeah, apparently. Because oh my. Oh. No, I think Frankenstein is a pet peeve of mine. I'm not going to lie.
And the kids like this pretty well, right?
Yeah. I mean, they watched it. It's not something that, like, when they saw the website, they're like, oh, I want that one, or get excited. They're just, okay.
There were other programs on the website they like better. They like Peppa Pig better.
Yes. Even the 2-year-old, she'll go, pig, pig, pig. And there wasn't that sort of excitement to see the chinchillas.
No. And I think this is missing something that a lot of people associate with Bluey, and it's been a big component of Bluey's success, which is the fact that Bluey has themes and messages that are clearly intended for the adults who are watching. And we actually have some problems with some of those messages that they're communicating, because Bluey gets away with a lot of stuff. You just count the number of times Bluey hits her parents and gets away with it, and it's...
Runs over her parents!
She does run over her parents with a big toy car. But, I think that's the reason why people really connect with Bluey, is because there's something for older people to watch. And there's really not any of that here. This is a children's program. If you're an adult, you're going to be bored watching this, just like you would be with most any children's content.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I think that the dad character is a lot of fun, but I think he's kind of wasted on the show. I wish they would kind of neglect the educational stuff and just be like, Dad is just doing a crazy thing, and we've got a crazy dad, and this is just life. I don't know. I think it lacks creativity, honestly. I feel like I'm watching something that I've seen 1,000 times. Maybe it's because I've seen Bluey, but I don't know. I'm not... I give it like a 3-star. It's in the middle of the road. I have a big beef with one of the shows called Kit Fit Go. It's like a literal workout video for children. There's 2 episodes, and I believe they're about 5 minutes long, right? Is that how long? 5 minutes?
Well,
Or is it
it's 8 minutes.
8 minutes,
because
okay.
They do like 8 exercises for 30 seconds and then 30 seconds break.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. There are workouts that adults don't do right, and that I just don't suggest for children, because the form matters. Not only because that's how you get the actual workout, but because you can hurt yourself. And those are squats of any sorts, which includes lunges, planks, dash, sit-up, or push-ups. And I'm kind of against sit-ups. We've like completely moved away from that in most regards. Like crunch is okay, but still, those 3 things, like form matters a lot. You can really, really hurt yourself, and also you can just do them completely wrong. And that is what almost a majority of the stuff is. So it's not only just stuff that it's not like you can do wrong, but it's also not really fun stuff, and it's not stuff that kids can do easily and get excited about. Type in squat in YouTube, and you get thousands and thousands and thousands of videos about how to do a squat right. And so I just don't think it is fair to try to get kids to do these rapidly and quickly for the first time ever, instead of talking about, I don't know, having mom and dad help you get your form right.
Well, and they also don't talk at all about things like warming up beforehand. It really is just, hey, let's jump into some of the sorts of exercises you might expect to get in an adult exercise video.
Yeah, and I think it also bothers me because it's like, if you want to get my kid active, why don't you just show a bunch of kids playing soccer and be like, how about you go play soccer too? Instead, they literally call it a HIIT workout, which is high intensive interval training. Might as well just put them on a row machine while you're at it.
All right, so next up we've got Kid Explorer, which is an educational show that's apparently meant for fairly young children. The host is what appears to be a pretty young child. The format is pretty minimalistic. It basically consists of the host staring at a camera and talking to it. They do have cutaways to some different graphical elements, but for the most part, you always keep going back to the same shot of the same stage. And I think for a lot of young children, that's going to get pretty boring quickly. There's really better stuff available for free on YouTube, and you can find some of that in our playlists on our channel. So I'm not sure that this offers really all that much. If they could add in a few more sets, if they could maybe do some other things to really give this show a little bit more of a unique spin on the kid edutainment formula, then maybe there would be something here. But right now, it's kind of bland.
I think the best thing about it is the kids are pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, for a kid actor, he's amazing.
Yeah, he really is. Because a lot of kid actors are just really, really grating. And this one, he comes off as being professional. He reads his lines well. I think if you gave the kid a better environment to work with, it could work, but it needs some major tweaking.
Then there is Gus Plus Us. I want to say something nice. I do. Okay, the sets.
What is it?
Oh, sorry. Okay. No. It's Sesame Street wannabe with it doesn't even give us much background except there's a lady who hangs out with these two puppets, Carrot and Gus, and they do a lot of singing and just playing around, and I think the puppets look great.
They are very much Sesame Street knockoffs, though.
Yes.
Everything is very much in the style of...
Except the backgrounds. They are so white. I mean, it burnt my eyes. I mean, granted, I can't see white very well, but I mean, it just and it was just white. There's no hills, no nothing. There's just...
Think Arctic Circle. You need to bring out the snow goggles, or you will go blind from staring at your screen.
And as the episodes go on, there'll be a little bit, but they showed the ground. They were laying on the ground. They literally put white tarp on the ground so you could only see chunks of green. It was so weird looking. The lady can sing, but all the songs aren't very catchy. They're just kind of there for me, at least. I don't know. I want to like it. I do. But it feels like it needs a few more passes. I don't know. Call me when season 3 comes out and rewatch it. I don't know.
It's pretty obvious the shows that they are the most proud of are Mabel Maclay and Chilla Time. And they are the best shows that Daily Wire produced in-house. And they're somewhere between okay and pretty good with potential to get better. But I do think that even those shows, they need to take a close look at the formula and try to understand what works and what could be better.
Yeah, I think the true service that Bentkey has is that it has conglomerated all these different foreign shows that aren't woke onto their streaming site. I think that's the only thing I can say that I'm okay, that is actually a service. Because the stuff they brought in, I actually really enjoyed.
Yeah, so aside from these 5 shows that Bentkey produced itself, they've apparently licensed quite a lot of different shows. And so you get shows like Clanger.
Oh, Clangers was the best.
Clanger is it's the standout on the entire platform right now, because this is a show that's apparently a bit of a British national treasure. The first run of this show came apparently in the 1970s, and then they revived it much more recently. And it's just kind of a stop motion thing with little knitted armadillo-looking creatures living in space, and there's no... the creatures don't have any voice. other than just making little generic sounds. There's just a narrator who tells you basically what's going on, and otherwise it's just kind of a surreal, minimalistic, but very, very creative little series of adventures.
Our kids went from kind of just laying on the floor to at the TV staring when Clangers came on. It was an experience for them. They got really excited. And then I got pretty excited about Rune, which is basically a cartoon about William the Conqueror, which had 3D animation, and it's fun to look at, but also you can tell it's going to get very interesting, and it's very much for older kids. I think it felt to me almost like they're like, you know what people like? Avatar: The Last Airbender. Let's get our own.
It's the only show that I think you could show to a teenager and they wouldn't be embarrassed to watch.
Yeah.
Everything else is very much targeting younger children, which makes it a little weird to have this one show where they only have 2 episodes right now.
Yeah.
But if they could get more stuff like that, then that would be great.
Ernest and Celestine. It is so cute, and it's just got so much heart, and it's so beautiful. We didn't play it to the kids because our particular kids I don't think will like quite yet. I think our daughter might like it in a year. Because I don't think it's really for very, very young kids.
No, they probably need to be a little bit older. Although there are some moments. So you only saw the 1 episode.
Yeah.
Some of the other episodes are a little bit more playful. Like in the first episode, there's a lot of Ernest running away from some mice that he thinks are ghosts. And so there's a little bit... The one you saw was a lot more dour.
He finds her in a trash can.
Yes. There's an episode about how a little mouse was abandoned and came to be found and taken in by a bear. And anyway, it's very heartfelt. It's based on a book series. It really is just, it's like watching a book come to life. And, you can't help but love the characters.
If you want to kill a few brain cells, watch How Ridiculous. I'm not joking. I think a few brain cells of mine died. I only have like 3 working right now, but all 3 of them are like, It was just so stupid. And it's a YouTube channel, right? Like, these people actually make YouTube videos.
They've got 19 million subscribers.
Taylor, don't tell me that stuff. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. I mean, like, I don't quite understand why, if they have a YouTube channel, they're put on this.
I don't know. I don't see how it adds any value because you can just go watch the hundreds of videos they've got on YouTube for free.
But the first episode, they're like, we've got really thick glass, mate, and we're going to throw things at it and see if we can break it. And it was just, they're throwing like fruit and like an old Nokia phone at it, and it was just, my daughter decided to put a sticker on the screen. She was so amused. She just...
I think she might have been making fun of them.
I think she might have been knowing her. She's vicious. I think.
But yeah, it's people doing very unintelligent things. It comes off as a bunch of frat boys.
Being frat boys. And the thing that bugged me is that you turn it on and there is no, like, intro. Like, this is us. This is what we do. We're Australian. Ain't that cool? And it's just, like, suddenly this weird, like, Blair Witch type, like, Blair Witch Project kind of footage. Like, with a shaky cam. It's not, because it's a cell phone. He's not recording this with, like, an actual studio or anything.
Well, he might be, but he might still be turning it around. So yeah, I mean, you can just watch the videos on YouTube, and if you're looking for something that does that sort of stuff, but in a more educational way, or at least a slightly more intelligent way, there's other channels that do the same sort of thing, but I think much better. Like Smarter Every Day does a lot of slow motion camera footage. You can see in some of the playlists we've got on our channel Science Max, does a lot of science experiments that are actually presented in an intelligent and coherent way and with the intention to communicate engineering and science principles to kids. And this is just its lowest common denominator nonsense. But apparently this is how you get views on YouTube.
It's a bunch of like 7-year-old boys. You're like, let's smash things.
Maybe this is the right time to say, hey, go hit that like button, subscribe.
I'll smash some windows for you.
If we get to 19 million subscribers, Sid will smash some windows for you. Let's work on it, people.
With a banana.
With a banana.
Is that what they were using? They used some sort of fruit.
Then there's Pirata and Capitano.
Baby's first One Piece. No, it's when I saw it, I thought, wow, some of this imagery is so Ghibli Studios. I don't know why. I think just the way the characters were drawn and some of the kind of scenery, and then the way it kind of plays out, it feels like Baby's first One Piece. Mainly because you've got this zany cast of characters, and yeah, they're pirates, but also they're friendly and happy, and it's just they don't take time to explain the universe. It's just weird. Their cook is a skeleton, and we're just supposed to be cool with that, and.
The crew is starfish.
Yeah, true. They're what's the big guy? Is he a pineapple?
There is a pineapple apparently in Capitano's plane.
Okay.
But the big guy is, I don't understand what that is.
Okay, he's an anime thing. I don't know, but it's fun. It's cute. It's got heart. I was surprised. You see the little picture they show on the website and you think this is going to be 19th century Spanish cartoon, and it's actually really beautiful.
And then there's Yeti Tales.
I like Yeti Tales. I think it's cute. Although the one thing I thought was really funny is it's about this Yeti who lives in a bookstore and he reads to mice. He reads books to mice. And if you look on the page that he's reading, sometimes it's in the original Italian.
You can tell this was all licensed from overseas.
Yeah. No, I know. It's my favorite because, one of them is about a kid named Henry. So, in the title card, it's spelled with an I. But in the front of the book, it's spelled with a Y. But sometimes on the page, it's spelled with an I or a Y because they can't keep the different translations straight, visually. The voice acting and the dubbing is pretty good. And it's really sweet. It's really cute. It's visually appealing. They use some pretty intense language, as in vocabulary. They talk about stirrups and stuff on the first episode.
Yeah. So it's basically story time. I mean, they actually read through a book, but then it's the presentation as a whole is very stylized because you get the commentary constantly going between the Yeti and the mice, and there's kind of a little framing story around everything. Yoko.
I have nothing against it, but it's also watching Roblox, made by children too. And
I mean, it's basically the idea is it's some kids that play in a park. They've got an imaginary friend who maybe isn't quite imaginary, who takes them on imaginary adventures that maybe aren't quite completely imaginary.
He's got magic, I think.
And there's magic involved. And
Canadians, I think.
And a Canadian.
That's important. I don't know. It's just it was so confusing. And then when you see the credits and you realize that half the names are Spanish and the other half are Slavic, you go, This gets even more mysterious.
Didn't we find out it was a co-production between Spain and Russia?
Yeah. And you can tell it's the two cultures merged together and made something that doesn't go together because neither one really got to express themselves or something. It was just...
You put Spain and Russia together and you get Canada.
Is that how that works? I can believe it.
So then there's Counting with Paula.
There was no counting.
those few moments when they do have counting, it's real bad because they cut away from the counting at one point. I was seeing them in one episode, they're counting something, and then they cut away from the thing that they're counting so that you're seeing a different view, and there's no coherent, there's no way a child would learn how to count like that. And then they just kind of throw numbers at you every once in a while. It's kind of a mess from any sort of educational perspective, and the graphics are just not great, and the storylines are not great.
My favorite was they're like, the number of the day is 7! And they show 7! 7! Look, it's dancing! And then the end, and not like, and it would be like, here's 7 seals! And then it'd be like so quick. It wasn't visually like, I can see 7.
One moment that I loved was there's a point where they say, okay, everybody needs to turn your lever to the left. Everybody. Now, all of you turn your levers to the left. And it's not just a linear switch lever that goes right or left. It's a wheel. And so you're talking to preschoolers and telling them, turn this left, and just think about what that means depending on whether the handle's at the top or the handle's at the bottom. That does not compute. It's not a valid instruction. And they don't want to teach kids clockwise or counterclockwise, apparently. So and then the funny part is one of them gets it wrong, except that with that instruction, you could not reliably expect to get it right.
I think for me, the one that got weird was the first episode was like, here's instructions how to deal with someone mean. First, you approach them. Second, you tell them your feelings. Third, if they're still mean to you, you walk away.
Well, that's what happened when the poor little chalkboard turns his little wheel the wrong way. They're like, here's the 3-step plan to dealing with failure.
Sorry.
So I think that's just going to be every episode.
I thought the advice was really bad.
Yes.
Because the guy was mean to them, and then they just walk away, and that was it. And they're like, well, we tried. And it's just kind of like, what? But you didn't solve anything. You probably just kind of made it worse for yourself, too. I don't know. It was weird. Then there's the other sort of uncanny cartoon truck games, which is about 4 little trucks. They're mini trucks, and they go on missions. They get sent on missions, I should say, by this bigger truck. And the missions are things like going down a slide. They get shot out of a cannon. And then they have to go... Yeah, I mean, it's just...
Every episode begins with big truck telling them, here's your mission. They get shot out of the cannon to halfway across the world to where they're going to start their little mission. And then, yeah, it's great because there's one episode where one of the little trucks, after being shot out of a cannon to go to this slide...
in the middle of the desert.
He is then afraid to go down the slide because he's afraid of heights.
He has vertigo.
He has vertigo.
That was my favorite. They're like, you gotta defeat vertigo. And they're like, what's vertigo? It's a fear of heights. So that constantly they're like, it's okay, you just have vertigo. And one guy was like, we don't have vertigo. It's okay, we can do this. And I thought, oh boy, you really,
Oh yeah, that was your word of the day. That was the educational value, is you're going to mislearn the word vertigo.
And then you've got your generic animal documentary, Walking Wild. It's by the San Diego Zoo. And it's just generic. You can find stuff like this on the internet or on YouTube. And it's basically like, here's different animals we have. And the one thing that gets me, I had to replay it a few times because, like, am I missing something? She'll act like, the person who's talking will act like they're being asked a question, but you never hear the question being asked. Because I remember she goes, yeah, well, they'll feed off their mother for like a year, but they'll start eating solids. And I thought, this is weird the way you're starting this. You're acting like you're answering a question, but the question's never...
It seems like basically these are clips from doing guided tours of the different exhibits. And
It feels like an interview that we're only getting half of.
And there's tons of animal videos on YouTube, and some of them are incredibly high production value. And if you go to our channel and go to our playlist, we've collected a lot of these. But yeah, I'm not sure that it adds much value. So then we've got Jasmine and Jambo.
I was so tired when I was watching this. I was thinking, I am missing something. I have to be missing something.
It's very surreal, and it's very hard to describe. It's basically like watching a very abstract, sort of cubist style painting. It's kind of supposed to convey a little bit of information about music, although doesn't really seem to talk a lot about that. It's really a lot of watching a couple of strange characters get up to strange hijinks in a strange world, and beyond that it's just extremely difficult to explain what this is.
It's a cartoon. Like, it's very, we're getting up to the usual cartoon shenanigans, but in this weird world where everything's an instrument.
They live in Soundland.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's there. Maybe there's a kid out there like who's really gonna fall in love with it, but.
Yeah. And finally, there's Tish Tash.
And the kids loved it. That's like the one thing that they really sat and watched besides Clangers. It feels like it feels like Peppa. But with a lot more of about being imaginative and less about real life.
It's a lot more fantastic because
Yeah.
Tash is an imaginary friend.
Yeah, so it's about a little girl who lives with her little brother and her family, and she has an imaginary friend, and stuff will happen in her real life, and she kind of wants to learn what to do and how to deal with it, and her imaginary friend comes and takes her on an adventure, and they kind of learn, oh, okay, this is how we should behave. I will say this morning we watched an episode, and they had timeout. The little boy did something wrong, and the little girl did too, and they both got in timeout, and I thought, oh, good for them.
Yeah, you won't see that on Bluey.
No.
So I think one thing all of this really does is reinforce something we've kind of already been observing, which is that if you're looking for children's educational content, if you're looking for just children's entertainment, you're probably going to do a lot better looking overseas. America is actually fairly unique in just how divisive its children's entertainment material has become. And if you look at European nations or Asian nations or elsewhere, they're not doing this in the same way that America is. And so one of the things that I definitely think the Daily Wire got right here was licensing all of these different properties. And I think if they lean into that, that could make this a really valuable service. If they could, explore more European animated stuff, if they could, maybe they look into anime, Matt Walsh notwithstanding. Maybe they check out Bollywood. I mean, there is good stuff being produced overseas, some of it being appropriate for children. And, as for the stuff that they're producing themselves, it's kind of hit or miss. All of it really needs another pass and needs for them to really dig down into what works and what doesn't. And I think one thing that did hamstring them a little bit this time around was trying so very hard to make duplicates of popular thing. Bluey is popular, so we need our version of Bluey. Sesame Street is popular, so we need our version of Sesame Street. Let's do Mr. Rogers. And it seems like they're doing their best work when they're not necessarily sticking 100% to the formula.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kid Explorer is the one I think has the most potential.
If they can get that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they can get that right, it can be a really fun show. I think they need to drop this idea of doing hit for children. I would really wish they just drop that. And let's see here. I really do hope that they get more. And I hope that they expand the age range too, because right now it's for very small children. I mean, I have a feeling that our kids will grow out of it within 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, other than Runes,
Yeah.
it's all for basically 5 and under.
Yeah. And I hope they do more stuff like Runes, because there is a lot of stuff out there.
Oh yeah, if you're going to expand into that age range, and then you can definitely bring in the anime.
Yeah,
If you can sneak it by Matt Walsh.
I mean, there's some normal anime. Okay, like Conan the Detective doesn't look that weird, right?
So in terms of value, they're asking for $99 a year if you purchase a Bentkey subscription by itself, and that works out to about the same price as a Disney Plus subscription if you get that subscription with ads. It's a fair bit cheaper than Disney Plus without ads. And if you just compare the amount of content on Disney Plus versus Bentkey, obviously there's going to be far more on Disney Plus, and probably there's more children's content on, say, Netflix or other streaming services as well. So if you're just looking at this from purely the perspective of, what gives me the most material per dollar that I spend, obviously Bentkey isn't going to work out. But if you're the sort of person who's more interested in supporting alternate media and something that's maybe going to support more conservative values, then it might very well be that this is something you want to look into. There's not enough material on the service right now to keep children occupied for probably more than 2 or 3 weeks if they're watching a lot of it. So you might want to consider waiting a while if you're just getting this subscription for that purpose. The true value of this service is really going to come down to what do they do with it in the future. How often are we seeing new episodes? How frequently are they able to license new things?
Personally, I think it's one of those things where I would look back in a year or two and see, okay, well, did Mabel get better? Did Chilla Time get better? Did they add more stuff? It feels like right now it's just in its infancy. So if it feels like having a subscription right now is more of kind of a donation of, okay, we believe in you, you've got this, here's our support. But as for right now, I don't even want to use it even though we have a subscription because of the lack of continuous playing.
They really need to work on the actual technical details of the user experience.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's another thing we forgot to mention, that if it's full screen, you can't exit out. You have to get out of full screen before you can even close out and stuff like that. It just makes it not really usable for me right now. Because if you don't play the second episode quick enough, there are tears and riots.
Yeah. To be fair, I think most streaming services go through this phase when they get started. And, to be fair, this is also more than I think most anyone was expecting.
It's more than I was really expecting, yeah.
Yeah, in particular, the fact that they were able to bring on so many third-party shows from overseas, I think that's rather impressive. If they can keep that up, and if they can lean into that, and if they can make their in-house stuff better, then this really could be quite impressive, but it'll probably take a couple years before it really matures.
Yeah, and I mean they've got a few things in the pipeline that they're advertising. And I mean honestly, you've got Andrew Clavin, who just seems like he's got some things going on in his head, and I don't understand why they don't just be like, okay, kid, make a show. I think that would be fun.
Are you looking forward to the Andrew Clavin horror show?
Yes, I want that. Is that what he used to write?
Yeah, he wrote horror.
Oh, that makes so much sense. I would be there for it. I think it is a genre that isn't explored in the child sphere very often, but every time it is, like, kids love it. I mean, you think about Nightmare Before Christmas and how many kids just eat that up.
Speaking of which, we're going to be releasing an 8th grade literature curriculum called Journey into Horror and Romance. So look forward to that from Journey with the Destination in the future. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
If this video gets to 100 views, we will do the unthinkable and we will give our full thoughts on Bluey.